So today we're going to talk about the Rivian R1T electric truck. Everything in this video is going to be time-stamped if you just start to scrub, but I'm just going to lay out the context for talking about this. So my perspective is that of a designer, not an engineer, not necessarily a buyer. I want to take a deep dive critique of this product from the standpoint of a user experience. Because when I say design, I don't mean just the aesthetics, but how this all comes together into a product that you'll end up using and driving. And I'm gonna do it pretty casually in this format where I can go and mark up and annotate all these different images I put together. The other piece of context, my long time interest in electrification of adventure vehicles. So I grew up with adventurous SUVs, mostly the Toyota Sequoia. Through my dad, we would go car camping, and I remember just wanting a Toyota Sequoia when I grew up. I was just so into how all the different seats worked and all the different things you could do with it. And then at one point, we had an FJ Cruiser for a while, and I fell in love with that car. It just felt like this big toy. So I was clearly interested in overland type stuff from a young age. And when it came time for me to pick out a car, when I was going away to college, I did not go full tilt an adventurous vehicle, something like a 4Runner. As someone who's very environmentally conscious, I dialed it back in to a Mazda CX-5 that was gonna get pretty much double the fuel economy. It's still an all-wheel drive car with plenty of great features and utility, but I wasn't gonna feel that sense of guilt driving this gas-guzzling car. It's this central irony with people who are outdoorsy. The vehicles that enable us to get to these places in nature can also be really representative of the problems that we are posing to our planet. This is in the context of like people who like Toyota SUVs and who like Subaru Outbacks. This isn't necessarily the like Ford F-150 truck culture. And so this whole time I'm a fan of Tesla and closely following the saga of electrification. And I'm still a huge Tesla fan. In fact, when the Cybertruck was announced, I was a day one pre-order. Yes, I'm young without that much money, but the Cybertruck was gonna come in at a price point that I felt like was attainable. And so it just seemed like a match made in heaven. Here's my electric truck that I've been waiting for my whole life. And it very well still could be. I still have my pre-order and I want my Cybertruck. No matter what you think of the Cybertruck or the Rivian, it's good that there's competition in this space. And so I want to look at a lot of the things that the Rivian does right. Because in many ways, it is a more down-to-earth vehicle, not just in its aesthetics. Even though there are challenges, like we've seen, to growing a car company from scratch. And one of the motifs of this is going to be the kind of cultural difference between the Cybertruck and the Rivian. The Cybertruck is obviously targeting the existing Tesla audience, people who are really into that cool, minimal, Apple-esque aesthetic. Because the Rivian is squarely coming at the truck market from a different culture. At least from a marketing standpoint, they are squarely coming at it from these concepts of overlanding, adventure, skiing, surfing, biking, climbing. The entire brand image is created around this adventure narrative. They trademarked the term electric adventure vehicles. And their whole company is based around this SUV truck chassis. I think it's important to know that this is not just a concept, just more vaporware. Rivian has billions of dollars in investment, the most important of which is from Amazon, who, as you can see here, put in a delivery order for 100,000 electric delivery vans. Not only does this mean that there's a huge customer for Rivian right out the gate, but that they're creating a vehicle designed for mass production. Okay, so they're launching with two different models, the R1T and the R1S. This is the truck and the SUV. And as you can see, they're basically the same vehicle, just skinned a little bit differently. We're mostly going to be focusing on the truck because that's what I'm most interested in. And your last piece of context, these prices are said to come in somewhere around $69,000 for the truck, and I think it's $73,000 for the SUV. So fairly expensive, but these capabilities when it comes to its range, amount of motors, horsepower, all of that is comparable to the highest end tri-motor Cybertruck. So I really love what they did with the front end here. And obviously we're looking at a very traditional truck body that has this really squared off bed in the back. But there's just some really great things that they did with this. Of course, the first thing you see are the headlights. This big light bar that goes across the entire grille, and then these circular, they call stadium lights. And I think that will be pretty much the signature of all their vehicles. They call these stadium headlights because it looks like you're looking from the top down on this stadium here. And you'll see there are 4 lights inside of it. And they said the top 2 are the high beams and the bottom 2 are the low beams. And all the way around, this is all going to be part of the daytime running light. So you're always going to get that nice silhouette. And I guess this is going to be an RGB light bar, or at least green on the front and red on the back, because this is going to be your charge indicator. So this would be showing it pretty much fully charged, but if I just make some of this white again, the idea is it'll fill in like a giant battery indicator. I think this is smart to have for future-proofing because they are planning on doing some autonomous features, at least level 3 autonomy. Right here, these are LiDAR sensors, which is a laser-based depth sensor. And when you're talking about vehicles with autonomous technology, there's been a lot of discussion about communicating with pedestrians. You know, this is definitely down the road, but other car companies have experimented with using different color coding or things like that so that a vehicle can communicate to the outside world what it's doing, you know, to blink to say, hey, I see you, you can cross the crosswalk in front of me. I'm not gonna accelerate into you. And it's on the back here that you can see that we have this squared off truck bed, which according to the Cybertruck, maybe we shouldn't take for granted. And it's really this traditional truck shape where the biggest difference in utility between the Cybertruck and the R1T is going to show up. This is where that 100 years of working with traditional pickup trucks is going to be a benefit to the Rivian. The whole point of the Cybertruck is that exoskeleton body. That's the reason it can be so affordable. It has to be in that triangular shape, intrinsically part of it. But if you have this squared off truck bed, you can do all of the classic truck bed things, like they've been showing off this tent design that can sit right above the bed. You can't really do that with the Cybertruck, you know. They demo the Cybertruck with that camping module that looks like this. You know, this may be something that third parties in addition to Tesla are able to develop for the Cybertruck, but a running theme of Lunation Lab, kind of the central value of our entire company is modularity. You know, even if Tesla and other companies develop these types of solutions that can be really bespoke and fit the Cybertruck in particular, part of modularity is that there's an open compatibility. And if you're piggybacking a standard truck that just uses crossbars in order to put attachments on it, then you're able to use all these existing materials on the market for this already competitive ecosystem, which is that of rooftop tents. You're not reliant on Rivian to develop this model or other companies to kind of fit this proprietary thing. And with that, let's talk more about the utility. So we've got this very traditional bed in many ways, but like Tesla, this is something that they haven't really been pushing. This is a motorized included bed cover. I don't know if you'll be able to stand on this one, like you can stand on the Cybertrucks, but it does mean that this whole entire space is way more useful. And right here, these are even the buttons for controlling that bed, which looks a lot like the Cybertruck. But the really cool modular thing that they implemented is this crossbar system. So these crossbars, you can see, have a level of extension to them. This whole middle piece slides into these sides so that you can adjust the width of it. And obviously, why would you need to adjust the width when it's designed to fit this car? Well, right here, these are the sockets that it goes into on the back of the bed. So there's 4 of them on each corner. And in this configuration, you know, you adjust your crossbars to this particular height, you put it on top of the bed, and that's what enables you to do, you know, put bikes there, put that tent there, do anything you're gonna do with crossbars that you would do on any other car. But unlike the SUV, you'll get to bring down the overall height. But then you maybe want those crossbars on your roof. And so you can see these same crossbars presumably are at a lower width, would then just fit onto sockets on the roof. And I actually found, let me find this, a picture of the roof where you can see these sockets. So on this picture, you can see there's one right here, right there, and right there, all with your same set of modular crossbars. Even though obviously your roof is going to be a narrower width than your truck bed. But then finally, there is a space inside the bed that those will fit into as well, presumably at the narrowest size. And if you look at this photo, you can see right there, and then it's hidden from view, but there's presumably 2 more in the back. I think maybe on this photo, you can maybe see a little bit better. Yeah, there's the ones in the back. And while we're here, let's just mention that they fit their full-size spare underneath the truck bed. And if you don't feel like you need that full-size spare, or you want to mount it up on the roof or somewhere else, you can of course reclaim this massive amount of space for locking storage underneath the truck bed. And like the Cybertruck, we've got lights on either side to shine into the bed so you can see what you're doing. The bed will also have some other features that tap into the existing system on the car. And so because it has air suspension, you can have this built-in air compressor. And I presume up here, this is the PSI gauge. And of course, because we just have this massive battery pack, you're also gonna have access to, I think they said 110 volt power. And it looks like up here, this is USB-C. and this would be 110 volt. Do they mean 120? I'm not sure. Here's a photo where you can see those crossbars in their top of bed configuration so that you can carry some bikes. And while they don't have the Cybertruck's crazy ramp that folds out of the tailgate, they do have this little system of these hooks that drop down that you can use to step up into the bed. And of course, they have a frunk. A frunk is not to be taken for granted, even in an electric car. Mercedes just put out this car that is fully electric but has zero frunk whatsoever. But this is just a massive amount of space. And this trunk right here, this is a great user experience thing. I shouldn't call it a trunk, it's a hood. The hood is powered both up and down so that if you're tossing groceries in there, you can just presumably wave or use the voice assistant to open and close it. And all throughout it, of course, we have lights as well. And these are all little hooks that come out so that you can hang groceries or have more tie downs. I think they all will probably just flap down, something like that. They did also picture the frunk being able to hold a cooler. They're talking about making a cooler that would be custom fit for the frunk. So that definitely means that there's going to be a power source in there, which, you know, from a production standpoint as a filmmaker, it gets me thinking that I want to build like a custom PC chassis and RAID and UPS and I don't know, like a little data center in there until you get into a front end collision and there goes your computer. But we haven't even talked yet about their main differentiator when it comes to storage, and that is the gear tunnel. So this you can see here is another power operated door that comes down and reveals this massive tunnel that goes all the way through the vehicle. I don't think the idea is that you have long items running completely through the tunnel, but rather that you can access it from both sides. I saw this truck when it was debuted at the LA Auto Show about a year, 2 years ago. And here's some photos that I actually took of the vehicle and my photo of the gear tunnel. And they had set up these benches all around their booth that were the exact size of the gear tunnel, that had this like window that you could see through to see examples of all the kinds of stuff that you can fit in there. And when it comes to signaling who this truck is for, by the kind of companies and gear that they show used in this gear tunnel, they can communicate a lot about the culture that they're targeting. You know, these are all really nice Yeti coolers and Thermarest sleeping bags and of course, more lights so you can see what you're doing. Okay, great, more storage. But they do plan on building more functionality into the gear tunnel. Right off the bat, you can see someone sitting on it here. It's gonna be able to be used as a seat, which would be great for production. But you can also use it as this giant step so that if you stand on it, you can get access. Let me draw a little stick figure here. You can get access to the roof really easily or inside the bed really easily. Now this, I assume, is very pre-production, but they love to showcase this camp galley that just slides out from inside the gear tunnel. So this would be, you know, a first party accessory. You have your little release right here. The door opens and you just slide this whole thing out, and you have an electric stove that is powered by the battery. And over here, this is a little sink. Beep, beep. That would be pumping water from, they say, a 5-gallon tank. Cooking in galleys are one of the craziest parts of overlanding that require these elaborate setups, and a lot of them are designed to slide out and have this kind of functionality, but from the back of the truck. This would be such a great solution that wouldn't require any propane. I know they mentioned that it would have a limit to the amount of electricity it could use, and so that it would never be cutting into your range in a way that would really affect you, and you would have all this other storage to be used with it and a tabletop surface. I think we should still be holding our breath on something like this, but this is unlikely to be the only module that gets implemented into this gear tunnel. Conceivably, you could just have a module that's all drawers or something more suited to production, where you can maybe mount a monitor that comes up and like have like a standard U rack where you can mount computer hardware. And then let's look a little bit at the interior. I did watch plenty of videos to try to confirm there was no leather, no animal products used. So that is the right move for an electric car company. But this is something where they may really differ from Tesla. They're being very explicit that they're using durable materials that will be really easy to clean and will make you not think twice about taking it to the beach and getting it dirty. Well, the car will not be bulletproof like the Cybertruck probably will be. This is definitely a welcome addition to the very like glossy black, pristine interiors that Teslas have had. So a few other things to point out while we're here. We do have a glass roof on the top. It's a more traditional panoramic roof, but always welcome to have. They say there's gonna be heated and cooled seats. You know, it's definitely gonna be a premium car with a premium interior. There's gonna be quad zone climate, so I assume that's climate controls there so that every passenger in the car can have their own climate controls. And here's the dashboard. So they're going for pretty much this futuristic screen-only approach, but they are more traditional. I think that I'd prefer to still have this here. You know, there's a reason why the Model S and X still have that traditional dashboard in front of you. But when it comes to signaling to their target audience, you know, they're talking about sustainably sourced wood. You can see down here that they have, it looks like sort of a woven webbing cover for these big pockets on the side. I mean, this whole thing looks like a really hard material that you could almost hose down. This is definitely a warmer, more inviting interior than the Cybertruck's very like surgical marble looking top and single screen. And when it comes to the actual user interface of the center dash, that will most likely be built on Android. A few other car companies have been building their infotainment itself on Android, not Android Auto, but like the infotainment is Android. That doesn't mean that you can like download apps, but it does mean likely native Google Maps. But it looks like it's definitely very custom, very skinned. They say that these are all gonna be little modules. And if you look closely here, you can see a little full screen symbol in the top right. So I think these are all modules that will be able to slide back and forth, but you can always just full screen one of them, which looks like a great interface. This was just a great shot that I found that shows the back of one of these seats. And this material, it looks textured. I would almost assume it's like a bioplastic. And this just looks like bungee, but you've got these nice like rubber wrapped zippers that I'm not sure why you would want to take that off, except for it just being modular and having it be easy to swap out in case it gets damaged. But it'd be cool if you could zipper on like a mole style attachment, or I don't know, something else that changes the functionality. This was something that they said on the website about the interior. Sustainably sourced wood, colors and textures inspired by nature, adventure, utilitarian, rugged daily use. This is what I'm talking about their positioning. The kind of language they use is made to appeal to someone like me. Oh, and while we're just down here on the interior, this is a look at the 7 seats inside the SUV. And they did make a big point to say that these seats will fold down flat, completely flat, to make a huge storage surface. And something that's true on both trucks, underneath here, this is actually more storage space that runs the entire length of the car, kind of like a secondary little interior gear tunnel under the seats. And my favorite thing ever in an SUV that I always wished the Sequoia had, a split tailgate. So you can see right here, you could sit on that puppy, or you could have that tailgate up like this, and then just have the back open, which is awesome if you're doing production stuff and you want to put your camera in the back to shoot out, or you have tall gear that needs to be coming out, or you just want to load something up quickly. The split tailgate is the best. And here's the back of it where you can see, I think this is probably the point where it breaks in half, not just the window. So I'm not dismissing this, but clearly the Cybertruck is designed for a different audience than the Rivian. If you look at Rivian's webpage here, I mean, they use a topographic design for the background. You know, they use the word adventure constantly. They have this whole thing that maybe is a little cheesy about how their logo symbolizes their different values, and the arrows mean innovation and adventure, inspiring and inviting, and like it's like a compass with like it's 4 different directions. I mean, yeah, I don't know about all that. It's just like they're gearing it for that audience, and I think that it's gonna have a million little implications about how the vehicle actually works. And it does matter to me what a company stands for. There have been big concerns with Tesla's worker rights and things like that. And there's also been concerns about Rivian stealing IP and personnel from Tesla. Ultimately, I'm not gonna fall too in love with either company. They're both corporations that want my money. But from a designer standpoint, I think you can see how the Rivian feels to me like fresh air. I mean, they make these gorgeous videos of the truck doing all this capable off-roading stuff, of people having these great times camping in it. Culturally, you know, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like they're a company I want to support, who, you know, wants to provide a really good experience to me. For what it's worth, this is a real photo with this real car that is practical, that is designed like a truck has been, that's gonna work with existing accessories. I mean, I think it's gonna be really competitive. Okay, that's gonna be it. The Rivian R1T. I'm really stoked on it, and I liked doing this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I have a few questions for you. Number 1, what should I call this series? I'm thinking something like design annotated, something along those lines. What topics would you like me to cover next, where I just sort of dive in and draw and talk and think about these different products? If you're here because you're a fan of Rivian, I would encourage you to subscribe and stick around, because I do a lot of talking about, or at least I have planned videos about overlanding, sustainability, and outdoors culture. My name is Jackson. Thanks for stopping by.